Hi everyone, so today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the brake lines on a 1999 Jeep Wrangler. It's the Sahara with the 4.0. So these are the brake lines that I bought online, and I'll include a link in the description. But one of the big complaints was that they came, so these are the pre-bent ones, formed specifically for my model. And one of the complaints was that they had to rebend a lot of it. But it came from the factory in a giant, it was like a 4 by 2.5 foot box. So gigantic box so that it could fit and have the least amount of bends. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so even before starting the project, I'd recommend you get one of these wrenches. It's a 5-sided, and this one is specifically 9/16, which fits my brake lines here. And so I'd definitely recommend it. Most American-made cars use the 9/16 for brake lines. It's just so that you can get over that one side. It's basically a 6-sided with one open side, so a 5-side. So that you can get it on there, get a much better grip. The reason that I'm replacing mine are that they rusted through and there's a pinhole leak, so whenever you press on the brakes, it squirts out a ton of brake fluid. So those are going to be on there pretty good, so I would definitely recommend this 5-sided wrench. Just purchase it before you even do a brake job like this. Don't be like me, I completely forgot that the Jeep hood doesn't need to rest on that bar. You can actually fold it all the way back and rest it back there. I totally forgot that until the end of the project, so don't be like me. Do that at the beginning so you have a lot more room to work. So there's a couple of ways you can do this project. No matter what, you're gonna have to jack up your Jeep and take your tires off because you're gonna need to bleed the brakes. I'm gonna take a couple of days to do this project, so I don't want to take the tires off and leave it jacked up for that long. So I'm just gonna remove each brake line one by one, so that I can match up the old one with the new one, and then install it, and then at the end of it I'm gonna bleed the brakes, and I'll show you how to do that too at the end. But I'm going to start with the front driver's side. As you can see right there is the brake line where it connects into the rubber hosing for your brakes there. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that there. Probably let it drain out some of the brake fluid. As you can see, it all leaked out from where it was squirting out. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with that. All right, now you can see what happened to mine. Basically, the piece broke off as I was unscrewing it. You could see how badly it was rusting on there. But that is actually a 3/8 head right there, just a heads up. So anyways, you unscrew that. Luckily, it wasn't completely rusted on, so I was able to get it off so I can put on a new one. You might have, like me, these plastic bits that were holding the 3 lines together down there. They just pop right off. You either use a screwdriver or your nail basically and just pop it off and pop the plastic bits off. And then you'll just go through them and replace one by one. So I know that middle one goes to the front driver's side, which then comes to this one right here. It's going to be your front driver's side. So go ahead and loosen that and put on the new one. As you can see, fairly similar, almost the same. Not perfect, but pretty close right there. Make sure you kind of twist it around multiple ways. I actually was originally thinking this was backwards like that, but as you can see, it almost pretty similar. So go ahead and put on your new piece once you get that piece off. You just kind of, by the way, you just kind of got to feed it through. It goes under that flap there, at least on mine. So you got to feed it down through here. You're gonna have to do that with all of them. It's gonna take a little bit of work to finagle it down through there. All right, so as you can see here, got that new one on. My new ones from Amazon, actually, one side is a 3/8 and the other is a 7/16. So it'd be worthwhile to get a second wrench like this, because that's what you're gonna need if you use these parts from Amazon. So next I'm gonna go ahead and do the front passenger side, so let's go ahead and get started on that. So to get that passenger one off, it connects in here from the passenger side tire, and basically weaves up on top of the framing there behind this plastic bit, all the way up front to here. I already took this plastic, if you still have it, plastic Jeep bit. It's just two on both sides, 3/8 inch bolts on both sides of it. So I got it out. Oh, and also it was the back one on the oh, there you go. This back piece here. I actually had a larger bolt in there that I had to hold in place with another wrench while I undid the brake line. So I don't know if you'll have that, but I did. So basically, if you take that plastic bit off, it weaves up again on top of the framing here and behind. Basically, it's going behind the suspension on top of the frame, and then behind the plastic is where it pops out on both sides, where it pops back into the engine compartment on this side and pops out onto the brake line on the passenger side. So that's how you weave it out. I had, as you could see, there's some plastic bits that it connected onto here to hold it in place. I broke mine, so maybe I can get it to work. I might need to purchase new ones. So one tip, and I'll see as I try to weave this through. One tip I heard was to undo the sway bar here so that you have a little more room to work everything through and finagle it through. That actually makes a lot of sense because the line actually goes through here on top of the frame to under so that it can go on the back of the bumper here. So I might need to do that. Since I cut it to get it out, obviously I didn't need to do that because I could just pull it. But the new one, obviously you can't do that. So I'm going to go ahead and wire this through, and I'll give you any tips I get as I get through with it. Alright, so I'm now finally dealing with what a lot of people complain on my channel about, is the super rusty bolts. I've typically dealt with desert cars, and this is definitely not a desert car, seeing a lot of snow and ice and salt and crap. So my bolts were rusted on there pretty good. What would have taken me normally 5 minutes took me about half an hour just to get 4 bolts off. So I just took these 4 bolts off here. Hopefully I don't have to completely, I'll let you know if I have to, completely remove the sway bar. But I'm hoping by just removing these 4, which by the way, they're 15mm bolts, I'm hoping I can just lift this up out of the way. Essentially, this, you can kind of see the old one is like, almost like a rectangle. So that's what I'm gonna, or a 3-sided rectangle. So essentially I'm gonna try to slide in the one side on the driver's side here, under here, kind of on top of, like I mentioned, on top of the frame there, but behind the suspension. And do the same on this side, and kind of slide both sides in at the same time, and hopefully be able to fit it on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that. I'll let you know any tips once I get it done. All right, it took forever, but I finally got them on. I still need to bolt the sway bar back down and basically position this how I want it. Want it under here on the right side. Just be sure when you're positioning that, see my piece kind of as a center. I'm gonna try to center it on this part of the bumper here. I had this rubber piece fall off, and it goes between up in here. Just make sure you don't let the brake lines rest right there if this does fall off, because you don't want to hit something and have the frame smash your brake line. So anyways, that did work for me how I explained. Taking this sway bar off, or just loosening those 4 bolts, and then basically just inserting it. Did this side first. This side is fairly easy. This side has all of these type of bends, so it was a pain. I had to straighten this one, which I hate to do because I don't like bending this stuff constantly, but I had to straighten it
I was able to force it through. The one thing on this side is that I have a rubber piece there. You could see, basically, I took a box cutter and just cut it. This isn't my daily driver, and I'm not really going to be driving around in mud or snow or anything. So I'm probably just going to staple that back. You may want to properly remove that. But I just cut it because it has to feed through there. And I was able to feed it up through here, bend it back around, and get it back to the back of that. So takes quite a while, but that's what you got to do to replace that passenger side one. Okay, so you can see I put everything back on here. You're going to need to, so that you can jack it up at the end of this to bleed the brake lines. So lastly, we're going to do the rear. So as you can see, it's our final one here because these two are brand new. So go ahead and loosen this one, and I'll get under and show you where that connects into. All right, here's the rear driver's side. And the rear brake line connects into here. And as you can see, it goes all the way along the frame, if I can get it to focus. And all the way up front. Basically, you can see it hooks up and then goes up to everything in there where you just disconnected it. So go ahead and loosen it here at the back driver's side, and then go ahead and take it off of all of these brackets that it's going to be hooked on. Now this is probably the easiest one here, lengthwise. You can see the new one is pretty similar in size. I had to straighten the old one to get it out, but this is probably the easiest one to come out. So like I said, you just got to straighten it basically into a straight line and finagle it out of there. It comes out pretty easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the next one in the same way I took the other one out. So I got it all put in. I zip tied because it was zip tied before that I cut, just to kind of keep all these together. So this one again was definitely the easiest. So your kit might have come with, or might not, kind of depends on what you bought. The rear pieces that go, mine didn't include this rubber soft brake line that goes from here to where it divides right there. So you might have, mine came with these pieces to go from the divider to the wheel, and that's just a solid metal on both sides. I'm not going to show how to do that because that's pretty simple. You just undo it there. It basically hooks right into the wheel on both sides. It's not too complicated. There is a piece behind it that you might want to remove, but I'm not going to show how to do that because it looks like somebody has replaced those much more recent than my other lines. So anyways, go ahead and get this rear line all connected in next. So I decided to change my mind on replacing these rear ones since it came with it, because that part is stripped off. So I'm going to have to replace this rear brake cylinder on both sides, because I can't bleed my brakes. Since I got to take that piece off anyways, might as well put on a brand new piece. So real easy, just undo it here, weave it through. You can tell this is actually not a custom molded piece that someone put on. Sorry, it cut there, but it's not a custom piece. But basically, you'll just connect it into there, where you will loosen it off. So go ahead and do that next. Alright, so the rear passenger is pretty much the same. Just connects here into the rear brake cylinder, which I also need to replace because I stripped that bolt because it's rusted. The only thing that really holds it down for me is that little bracket right there and two little 10mm bolts. So go ahead and undo those, and then undo both this side and then back on the other side of that axle where it connects into that little T-piece. So go ahead and do that next. So the last thing I'm going to show are these last two pieces here. They go from the basically the brake distributing lines to the master cylinder there. The one thing I noticed is that the top and bottom are actually different sizes. on both of mine and on the replacements. So just make sure that you orient those correctly when you replace them.
Yeah, finished that, got those two pieces on, and now I need to bleed the brakes. So I'll show that in another video. But that is how you replace the front passenger, front driver, and the rear brake line on a 1999 Jeep Wrangler. So hopefully this was helpful, and thanks for watching.